The palace was dying. Queen could feel it in her bones, in the way the crystal walls hummed with a frequency that spoke of endings. She stood at the great window of her throne room, watching the sky burn orange and red as enemy ships filled the horizon like a swarm of angry insects. She was tall, even by standards. Her skin glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed with her heartbeat. 4 slender arms hung at her sides, and her large, dark eyes reflected the destruction outside. She had ruled for 200 years. She had seen wars and plagues and disasters, but she had never seen this. Her people were running. The throne room behind her had been full just hours ago. Advisors in flowing robes had stood in neat rows. Generals with medals on their chests had reported on battle formations. Guards with energy spears had lined every wall. Now there was only silence, empty spaces where loyal subjects should have stood. A servant rushed past the open doorway, carrying a bag stuffed with valuables. He did not even look at her. She was his queen, and he did not even look at her. This was the way, knew this. She had been taught this since she was grown in her birthing vat 2 centuries ago. A queen who cannot protect herself is no queen at all. Survival is the highest law. When the ship sinks, you swim. You do not wait for someone to save you. She had believed this her whole life. Now, standing alone in her empty throne room, she wondered if she had been wrong. The palace shook. Another explosion, closer this time. The collective was not waiting anymore. They had sent their ultimatum 3 hours ago. Surrender the queen for public execution and the remaining worlds would be spared. A simple trade, 1 life for billions. Had refused, not out of courage but out of pride. She would not give her enemies the satisfaction of dragging her through the streets. She would die here in her palace on her throne. It was the only dignity she had left. She heard footsteps behind her, heavy boots on crystal floor, not the soft padding of feet, something different. She did not turn around. If it was an assassin, she would face death looking at the stars. If it was one of her people coming to say goodbye, she did not want to see the pity in their eyes. The footsteps stopped. "Your Majesty." The voice was rough, thick with an accent she did not recognize at first. Then she remembered, the human, the military from Earth, part of some minor diplomatic exchange that had seemed so unimportant just weeks ago. She had barely noticed him at court functions. A small creature, barely reaching her chest, with brown skin and black hair cut short. He had stood in corners and watched and said very little. She turned to look at him now. He was wearing combat armor that looked old and worn. A rifle hung from his shoulder. His face was tired, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Sergeant Park," she said, "you should be on the evacuation shuttles." "Last one left 10 minutes ago," he said. "Then you should have been on it." He shrugged. It was such a strange gesture. Did not shrug. "I wasn't." She studied him with all 4 of her eyes. Humans were strange creatures, small and soft and short-lived. They died so easily from so many things, and yet they had spread across the galaxy like a weed, putting down roots in places where they should not have survived. "They will be here soon," she said. "They will kill everyone they find. Your people are not involved in this war. They would probably let you go if you surrendered." "Maybe," he agreed. "Then why are you still here?" He seemed to think about this for a moment. Then he walked past her to the window, looking out at the burning sky. His reflection in the crystal was small next to hers, like a child standing next to a giant. "I had a dog when I was young," he said. "Back on Earth in a city called, his name was Stupid Little Thing. Used to chase his own tail for hours. Did not know what a dog was, but she did not interrupt. One day there was a fire in our building. Everyone was running out. My mother grabbed me and my sister and headed for the stairs, but was still inside. He was hiding under my bed, too scared to move." He paused. His eyes were distant, looking at something far away. "My mother told me to leave him. She said we could get another dog. I was 7 years old. I went back anyway, nearly died from the smoke. Firefighters found me passed out on the floor within my arms. He turned to look at her. My mother beat me with a wooden spoon for a week straight, but lived another 12 years after that. I do not understand, said. You risked your life for an animal. I risked my life for someone who couldn't save themselves. The words hung in the air between them, felt something strange in her chest, an emotion she could not name. I am not your pet, Sergeant. No, ma'am, you're my post. He checked his rifle, counting ammunition. I was assigned to this court. Nobody told me to leave, so I'm staying. Your orders were to observe and report, nothing more. Then I'll observe and report whatever happens next. He smiled, and it made his tired face look almost boyish. Might be interesting. Another explosion shook the palace. Dust fell from the ceiling. In the distance, could hear the scream of landing craft entering the atmosphere. You will die here, she said. Do you understand that? This is not a story with a happy ending. There is no rescue coming, no reinforcements. You will fight and you will lose and you will die. Probably, he agreed again. Then why stay? He walked toward the great doors of the throne room, checking corners, looking for defensive positions. You know, my sister asked me the same thing when I enlisted. Why join the military? Why put yourself in danger? Why not find a safe job and live a long life? What did you tell her? He stopped at the door and looked back at her. I told her that some things are worth more than living a long time. The first soldiers appeared on the palace scanners. 40 ships had landed. Hundreds of troops were pouring out, forming ranks, preparing to storm the crystal walls. Pulled a small device from his belt and began pressing buttons. Somewhere deep in the palace, doors began to close, flickered to life. Defense turrets activated for the first time in decades. What are you doing? Asked. Buying time. He looked up at her. Ma'am, I need you to go to the inner chambers. Strongest walls, fewest entry points. Can you do that? I am the queen of the empire. I do not hide. With respect, your majesty, you're the queen of an empty palace, and hiding is exactly what you're going to do. His voice was firm but not unkind. I can't hold them off and protect you at the same time. So please, go. No one had spoken to her like that in 200 years. Advisors bowed, generals groveled, servants trembled. But this small human soldier looked at her like she was just another person, someone to be protected, someone to be kept safe. She did not know how to feel about that. And what will you do, Sergeant? He smiled again, that tired, boyish smile. What soldiers do, ma'am. I'll hold the line. He walked out of the throne room before she could say anything else. His footsteps echoed in the empty hallway, getting fainter and fainter. Stood alone in her throne room, surrounded by silence and crystal and the distant sound of war. She looked at her throne, the seat of power she had occupied for centuries. Then she looked at the door where the human had disappeared. Slowly, for the first time in her long reign, Queen of the Empire did as she was told. She went to the inner chambers, and she waited for the small human soldier to die for her. Heard them before he saw them. The sound of boots on crystal floor was heavy and rhythmic, like a heartbeat made of metal and anger. He crouched behind an overturned ceremonial table, his rifle steady against his shoulder, and waited. There were ugly creatures. At least, that was his opinion. They were tall and thick, with gray skin that looked like stone and eyes that burned with a dull red light. They wore black armor that covered their bodies from neck to toe, and they carried plasma rifles that hummed with deadly energy. 20 of them came around the corner, an elite assault team sent to clear the path for the main force. They moved with military precision, checking corners, covering each other. They did not expect resistance. Let the first 5 pass his position, then he opened fire. The pulse rifle kicked against his shoulder as he squeezed the trigger. Blue bolts of energy crossed the hallway in a flash. 2 went down immediately, their armor smoking. The others scattered, diving for cover, shouting in their harsh language, was already moving. He had learned long ago that the key to surviving against superior numbers was simple: never stay in one place. He rolled behind a pillar, fired 3 more shots, and sprinted down a side corridor. Behind him, plasma bolts scorched the walls where he had been standing. They were fast, but the palace was complicated. Hundreds of rooms, thousands of corridors, all made of the same glowing crystal, had spent the past 3 weeks wandering these halls out of boredom. Now that knowledge was saving his life. He ducked through a servant's passage, climbed a narrow staircase, and emerged on a balcony overlooking the main hall. They were regrouping below, their commander shouting orders. Counted 14 left. He had taken out 6 with his first attack. Not bad. He aimed carefully and fired again. 1 more fell. Then the others saw him and opened fire. Plasma bolts turned the air around him into a furnace of heat and light. He threw himself backward, rolling through a doorway just as the balcony melted behind him. His shoulder burned. He looked down and saw a scorch mark on his armor where a plasma bolt had grazed him. The wound beneath was raw and red, but not deep. He had been lucky. He kept moving. The next hour was a blur of running and fighting and hiding. He set traps with palace maintenance drones, programming them to attack anything with heat signatures. He collapsed hallways behind him, using the palace's own systems to slow the enemy down. He fought in doorways and on staircases, and in rooms filled with priceless artifacts that shattered under plasma fire. By the time the emergency bulkhead sealed, separating him from the forces, he had killed 11 soldiers and wounded at least 5 more. He sat against a wall, breathing hard, and tried to ignore the pain in his shoulder. The bulkheads would hold for a few hours at most. They would cut through them eventually, but for now, there was silence. His communicator crackled. A voice filled the hallway, broadcast on all frequencies. It was deep and cold, speaking in accented galactic standard. "Human soldier, I am commander of the 3rd Fleet. I know you can hear me." Did not respond. He checked his rifle instead, 47 shots remaining. "You have killed many of my soldiers tonight. Impressive for a species so small. They respect strength even in our enemies." Found some emergency rations in his pack. He ate a protein bar while listening to the broadcast. "I offer you a choice, human. Leave now. Walk out of the palace with your hands raised and you will be allowed to return to your people. This is not your war. The Queen means nothing to you." The protein bar tasted like cardboard. Ate it anyway. "Or stay and die. The choice is yours. You have 1 hour to decide." The broadcast ended. Silence returned to the hallway. Finished his protein bar, took a long drink of water, and stood up. His shoulder screamed in protest, but he ignored it. He had work to do. He found Queen in the inner chambers, exactly where he had told her to stay. She was sitting on a small bench, her 4 arms folded in her lap, her blue skin pulsing slowly with each breath. She looked up when he entered. Her dark eyes were unreadable. "You are alive," she said. "So far." He sat down on the floor across from her, leaning against the wall. "They'll break through in a few hours. I slowed them down, but there's too many." "I heard the broadcast. The commander offered you freedom." "He did. Why did you not take it?" Looked at her. In the dim light of the chamber, she looked almost fragile. Strange for a being who had ruled an empire. But her people had abandoned her, and now she sat alone in a small room, waiting for death. "My grandmother had a saying," he said. "She used to tell me, the measure of a person is not what they do when it is easy. It is what they do when it is hard." "Your grandmother sounds wise." She was. She also made the best kimchi in all of. He smiled at the memory. "She died when I was 15, worked herself to death running a small restaurant, never took a day off in her life." Tilted her head. "And this is connected to your decision to stay. She taught me that some things matter more than comfort, more than safety, more than living a long time. He shrugged his good shoulder. You needed help. Running away would have been easy, so I stayed. But I am not your people. I am not even your species. Why should my life matter to you? It was a genuine question, realized. She truly did not understand. Her entire culture was built on the idea that survival was the highest good, that when danger came, you ran, that loyalty was conditional, temporary, a contract that could be broken when the cost became too high. How do you explain love to someone who has never seen it? Have you ever had a friend, Your Majesty? The question seemed to surprise her. I have had allies, advisors, servants. That's not what I asked. She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. No, I have not. Queens do not have friends, we have subjects. That sounds lonely. It is efficient. Efficiency isn't everything. She made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are a strange creature, Sergeant Park. Your species is strange. You are small and weak and you die so easily. And yet you stay in burning buildings to save animals. You refuse to leave queens who cannot protect themselves. You speak of friendship and love as if they are more important than survival. They are. How can you say that? If you die, you experience nothing, you feel nothing, you are nothing. How can anything be worth that price? Thought about this. It was a fair question. He had asked it himself many times during long nights on distant worlds far from home. My sister has a daughter, he said finally. My niece. Her name is, she's 6 years old. I've only met her twice because I'm always deployed somewhere, but I have a picture. He pulled out a small device and showed her the screen. A little girl with bright eyes and a gap-toothed smile, waving at the camera. If someone threatened her, I would die to protect her, not because dying is good, but because her life matters more to me than my own. That's what love is. That's what loyalty is. It's saying that something else is more important than yourself. Looked at the picture for a long time. Her forearms tightened in her lap. And you feel this way about me, a stranger, an alien queen you barely know. I feel this way about anyone who needs help and can't help themselves. He put the device away. It's not complicated, ma'am. It's just being human. The palace shook. Somewhere in the distance, they were starting to cut through the bulkheads. The sound of plasma torches echoed through the crystal walls. Stood up, her skin pulsed brighter for a moment. Teach me, she said. Teach you what? To fight. If I am going to die tonight, I will not die sitting on a bench. I will die standing beside the only being who thought I was worth protecting. Looked at her, 4 arms, tall, probably stronger than she looked, not combat trained but smart and fast. He smiled. All right, Your Majesty, let's see what you've got. He handed her his backup pistol and began to teach a queen how to be a soldier. 12 hours into the siege, finally collapsed. He had fought off 2 more assault waves. He had held a corridor for 40 minutes against overwhelming odds. He had taken a plasma bolt to the chest that his armor mostly absorbed, and another to the leg that his armor did not. His shoulder wound had reopened and was bleeding through his bandages. He fell against the wall of the inner chamber and slid down to the floor. His vision was blurry. His hands were shaking. Every breath felt like fire in his lungs. Sergeant's voice was distant, like she was speaking through water. Sergeant, stay awake. He tried to respond, but his tongue felt too heavy. The world was spinning. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, he was lying on his back, was kneeling beside him, her 4 hands moving over his body with awkward urgency. She had found his medical kit and was trying to use it, but hands were not made for human equipment. I do not know how to work these devices, she said. Her voice was tight with frustration and something else, fear. The instructions are in your language. I cannot read them. Blue tube, he managed to say. Inject it anywhere. She found the tube and pressed it against his neck. He felt a sharp sting, then a wave of warmth spreading through his body. Painkillers, military grade, strong enough to knock out a horse. The world became soft and fuzzy. The pain faded to a distant ache. "That's better," he mumbled. "You are badly wounded," said. "You need a medical facility. You need doctors." Fresh out of those, he tried to smile. It probably looked terrible. "Just patch me up, I'll be fine." She looked at him with those large, dark eyes. He could not read her expression. Faces were not built like human faces. They did not smile or frown, but something in her eyes looked almost like grief. "Why do you do this?" she asked. "Why do you suffer for me?" "We talked about this already. You gave me philosophy, now give me truth." She leaned closer. "You are dying, Sergeant. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but every wound you take brings you closer to the end. Why? What do you gain from protecting me?" The painkillers were making his head swim. Words came out before he could think about them. "Nothing, I gain nothing. That's the whole point." "I do not understand." "I know you don't." He reached up and touched her hand. Her skin was cool and smooth like polished stone. "Where I come from, we have this idea. We call it sacrifice. It means giving something away and expecting nothing in return." "That is inefficient." "Yeah, it is, but it's also beautiful." She was quiet for a long moment. Her hands continued to work on his wounds, wrapping bandages, applying healing gel from his kit. She was getting better at it, learning fast. "Tell me about your home," she said finally. "Tell me about Earth." So he did. He told her about the city where he grew up, the smell of the sea in the morning, the sound of boats coming into harbor, the taste of his mother's cooking, spicy and warm and full of love. He told her about his father, a fisherman who died at sea when was 10. How his mother had worked 3 jobs to keep the family fed. How she never complained, never showed weakness, never let her children see her cry. He told her about his sister, 2 years older, who had always protected him from bullies at school, who had gone to university and become a doctor and married a kind man and had a beautiful daughter named. He told her about the niece he barely knew, her letters written in crayon, her drawings of stick figures with big heads, the way she called him Uncle Star because he worked in space. He told her about Earth itself, the blue oceans and green forests and white mountains, the cities that glowed at night like fallen stars, the billions of humans living their small lives, falling in love, raising families, growing old, dying. "We are not a remarkable species," he said. "We are not the strongest or the longest lived. We get sick easily. We die from things that other species barely notice. We fight among ourselves constantly." "And yet you have spread across the galaxy," said. "Because we are stubborn," he laughed, then winced at the pain. "We are the most stubborn species in existence. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We do not accept that something is impossible just because it is difficult." "Is that why you stayed, stubbornness?" "Partly, but also because it was the right thing to do." She had finished bandaging his wounds. She sat back on her heels and looked at him with an expression he could not identify. "They do not have a concept of the right thing," she said. "We have survival, we have efficiency, we have logic, but we do not have this. This. Whatever drives you, whatever makes you stay when leaving is easy, whatever makes you suffer for a stranger." She shook her head slowly. "I have lived for 200 years. I have studied 1,000 species. I have never encountered anything like humans." "We get that a lot." A sound echoed through the chamber. Plasma torches cutting through the outer wall. They were getting closer. Stood up, she picked up the pistol he had given her and checked it the way he had taught her. Her 4 hands moved with new confidence now. "They are coming," she said. Yeah, tried to stand. His legs were weak, but the painkillers helped. "Help me up." She extended 2 of her arms and lifted him like he weighed nothing. He had forgotten how strong were. They looked delicate, but their bodies were dense with muscle. "You cannot fight in this condition," she said. "Watch me. You will die." Maybe. He picked up his rifle and checked the ammunition. 32 shots left, but not yet. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something strange. She stepped in front of him, placing her body between him and the door. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Something I have never done before," she said. "Protecting someone else." "Your Majesty, you have called me that 100 times. My name is Use It." He blinked. "You don't have to do this." "I know, that is why I am choosing to do it." She looked back at him, and for the first time he saw something like a smile in her eyes. "You said sacrifice is beautiful. I want to understand what that means." A section of the wall glowed orange. They were almost through. Raised his rifle, raised her pistol. They stood side by side, the tall alien queen and the small human soldier, waiting for the enemy to come. "If we survive this," he said, "I'm going to teach you how to make kimchi." "What is kimchi?" "The greatest food in the galaxy. My grandmother's recipe." "And if we do not survive?" He smiled. "Then we die together, and that's not a bad way to go." The wall exploded inward. Soldiers poured through the opening, rifles raised. Moved without thinking. She pushed to the side just as a plasma bolt screamed past. It caught her shoulder instead, burning through her luminescent skin. She did not scream. She did not fall. She raised her pistol and fired 3 times. 2 went down. Opened fire from his position on the floor. His shots were less accurate than usual, but they found their targets. The narrow doorway became a killing ground. When the smoke cleared, 8 bodies lay on the ground. The survivors had retreated. Was on her knees, clutching her wounded shoulder. Blue blood seeped between her fingers. Crawled to her side. "Why did you do that?" "Because some things are worth more than survival," she said. And despite everything, despite the pain and the blood and the enemy just beyond the walls, laughed. "Now you understand." 48 hours. Had stopped counting the assaults after the 15th. The throne room was the last defensible position. He had retreated here when the inner chambers fell, dragging with him, fighting every step of the way. The crystal walls were scorched and cracked. The ancient throne was riddled with plasma burns. Priceless artifacts lay shattered on the floor like broken dreams. Sat with his back against the throne, breathing in short, painful gasps. His rifle was empty. His pistol had 3 shots left. His body was held together by bandages and willpower, and a stubbornness that his grandmother would have recognized. Sat beside him. Her shoulder wound had stopped bleeding, but she moved stiffly, healed fast but not fast enough. She still held the pistol he had given her, though it was nearly drained. "They are massing outside," she said. Her voice was calm. She had become calm, had noticed, as the situation became more desperate, as if the certainty of death brought her a strange peace. "How many?" "More than 100. Their commander is with them." The warlord had been broadcasting threats and offers throughout the siege. "Surrender the queen. Save yourself. Join us and be rewarded." The same messages, over and over, as if repetition would make change his mind. He had stopped listening hours ago. "Did you send the beacon?" asked. Nodded. Early in the siege, he had activated his emergency transponder, a distress signal, broadcasting his location and situation to any human ships in range. It was a long shot. Human territory was far from here. Even if someone received the signal, they would need days to arrive. They did not have days. "No response," he said. "I expected as much." She paused. "I want to thank you." "For what?" "For showing me what loyalty means, for treating me as something worth protecting. In 200 years, no one has ever—" She stopped, searching for words. "No one has ever stayed." "Their loss," he said. She made that sound again, the one that might have been a laugh. You are dying and you still make jokes. Best time for them. He shifted his position, wincing at the pain. Listen, when they come, I want you to surrender. What? You heard me. Hands up, no resistance. They want you alive for a public execution. That gives you time. Maybe my people will come. Maybe something will change. As long as you're alive, there's hope. And you? I'll hold them off as long as I can. Buy you some time to negotiate. She was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was firm. No. No. She turned to look at him, and there was something fierce in her dark eyes, something new. You taught me about sacrifice, about staying when leaving is easy, about protecting people who cannot protect themselves. Did you think I was not listening? This is different. It is exactly the same. She reached out with one of her hands and touched his face. Her fingers were cool against his skin. You are worth protecting too. I will not leave you. I'm just a soldier. You are the only being in the galaxy who thought I was worth dying for. That makes you more valuable than any throne. He did not know what to say, so he said nothing. He just looked at her, this strange alien queen who had started as a mission and become something like a friend. The doors to the throne room exploded inward. Soldiers poured through, dozens of them, forming a semicircle around the throne. They moved with disciplined precision, rifles trained on the two figures at the center of the room. Then the soldiers parted and stepped forward. He was massive, even by standards, nearly 3 meters tall, with shoulders like a mountain and eyes that burned with cold fire. His armor was black and gold, decorated with the symbols of conquered worlds. A trophy rack hung from his back, displaying the skulls of enemies he had killed in personal combat. He looked at and smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. "The little human," he said, "you have cost me many soldiers. I am impressed." Stood up, it took everything he had. His legs shook, his vision blurred, but he stood. "Just getting started," he said. Laughed, bold words for a dying creature. "You can barely stand. What do you think you can do against me? Slow you down. And then slow you down some more." The commander studied him with something like respect. "You humans are strange. Any other species would have surrendered long ago. What drives you? What makes you fight when victory is impossible?" Thought about this. He thought about his grandmother and her restaurant, his mother working 3 jobs, his sister protecting him from bullies, his niece drawing pictures of Uncle Star. "It's not about winning," he said. "It's about who you are. I could run away, I could surrender, I could live. But then I wouldn't be the person my family raised me to be. I wouldn't be human." Tilted his head. "And what is a human?" "Someone who stands up when they're knocked down. Someone who fights for what's right even when it's hopeless. Someone who refuses to leave anyone behind." He raised his pistol. 3 shots. 100 soldiers. Impossible odds. "We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. But we are the most stubborn. And we never, ever quit." Smile faded. "Then you will die here, both of you." "Maybe," stepped forward, putting himself between and the enemy. "But we'll die standing." Moved to stand beside him. Her pistol was raised too. 2 figures against an army, a human and a queen, the last defenders of a fallen empire. Raised his hand, preparing to give the order. And then the sky exploded. The ceiling of the throne room shattered as something massive crashed through it. Crystal fragments rained down like diamonds. Soldiers scattered, screaming, as a wall of debris buried them. Through the chaos saw it, a drop pod, human design, military markings. More pods followed, dozens of them. They smashed through the palace walls, through the floors, through the enemy ranks. And from each pod emerged human soldiers in full combat armor, weapons blazing. A voice boomed through the chaos, amplified by speakers. "This is Captain Bora of the UNSS Indomitable. All hostile forces surrender immediately or be destroyed." Laughed, it hurt, everything hurt, but he laughed anyway. You were saying something about impossible, he said too. The commander's face twisted with rage. He raised his rifle, aiming at his chest. A plasma bolt caught him in the side, then another, then a dozen more. Fell. Human soldiers swarmed the throne room. Forces, caught completely off guard, threw down their weapons and surrendered. In minutes it was over. A woman in captain's insignia pushed through the crowd. She was tall for a human, with sharp eyes and short black hair. She stopped in front of and stared at him like he was a ghost. "Sergeant Park," she said, "you are either the bravest soldier I've ever met or the dumbest." "Can I be both?" he asked. His legs gave out. He would have fallen if it had not caught him, her 4 arms holding him upright. "Get a medical team," Captain shouted, "now." As the world faded to black, Hurd's voice, soft and close to his ear. "Thank you," she said, "for staying." He smiled. "Any time, Your Majesty." Then the darkness took him. Woke to the sound of beeping machines and the smell of antiseptic. He was lying in a hospital bed, surrounded by monitors and tubes and devices he did not recognize. His body felt strange, heavy in some places, numb in others. He tried to move his arm and found it responding slower than it should. "Easy, soldier," a voice from beside his bed. "You've got more replacement parts than original equipment at this point." He turned his head, which took more effort than it should have. Captain Bora sat in a chair beside him, a tablet in her hands. She looked tired, but there was a hint of a smile on her face. "How long?" he asked. His voice was rough like sandpaper. 2 weeks. The doctors put you in a medical coma while they rebuilt your insides." She set the tablet aside. "You had 4 cracked ribs, a collapsed lung, degree plasma burns on 30% of your body, a punctured kidney and severe blood loss. By all medical standards, you should be dead." "But I'm not." "But you're not," she shook her head, "stubborn bastard." He tried to smile. "It hurt. Where am I?" "Medical frigate. We're currently in orbit around New Sol, heading back to Earth." She paused. "There's a lot to discuss, Sergeant. You've been busy." "Am I in trouble?" "Oh, absolutely." She picked up the tablet again and began reading. "Disobeying orders, abandoning your assigned post, engaging in unauthorized combat operations, starting an interstellar incident. The brass wanted to throw you in prison for the rest of your life." Closed his eyes. He had expected this. He had made his choice knowing the consequences. "However," Captain continued, "there have been some developments." He opened his eyes. "Developments?" "First, the collective has collapsed. Without their military leadership fell apart. 3 of their subject worlds have already declared independence. The war is effectively over." "That's good." "Second, the Empress, the one who replaced after she abdicated, has formally requested an alliance with humanity. Apparently, word of what you did spread through their entire civilization. You've become something of a legend among them." "I didn't do anything special." "You stood alone against an army to protect their queen. For a species that believes in survival above all else, that's the most special thing imaginable." She set the tablet down again. "Third, and this is the important one, you're being awarded the Stellar Cross." The Stellar Cross, humanity's highest military honor, given only to those who demonstrated extraordinary courage beyond the call of duty. "I don't deserve that," said. "The United Nations disagrees. So does the Empress, so does Queen herself." Captain stood up and walked to the window. "She's been here every day, you know, sitting in that chair, waiting for you to wake up. She abdicated her throne, said she couldn't rule a people who abandoned their duty so easily. She's requested asylum with Earth." Captain turned to look at him. "She wants to serve as an ambassador, to build a bridge between humans, and she says you taught her what loyalty means, and she wants to spread that lesson to her people." Did not know what to say. He had expected punishment, not honor. He had expected to be forgotten, not celebrated. "There's one more thing," Captain said. "Your sister is here. She flew all the way from when she heard what happened. She brought your niece. A cute kid. She made you a picture." The captain picked something up from the bedside table and handed it to him. A piece of paper covered in crayon drawings. A stick figure with a big head standing next to a tall blue figure with 4 arms. Above them, in wobbly letters, Uncle Star and the Queen. Felt tears in his eyes. He blinked them away. "I'll leave you to rest," Captain said. She walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Sergeant, I'm proud of you. We all are. You showed the galaxy what humans are made of." She left. The door closed softly behind her. Lay in silence, holding the picture his niece had made. He traced the stick figures with his finger. Uncle Star and the Queen. It sounded like a children's story. Maybe it was. The door opened again. This time it was. She looked different than he remembered. Smaller somehow, less regal. She was wearing simple human clothes, a gray sweater and dark pants that did not quite fit her tall frame. Her luminescent skin had dimmed to a soft glow. She stopped at the foot of his bed, her 4 arms folded awkwardly. "You are awake," she said. "So they tell me." She moved closer, sitting in the chair where Captain had been. Up close, he could see the scar on her shoulder where the plasma bolt had hit. It had healed but left a mark, a permanent reminder of the night she had protected him. "I have been waiting," she said. "Every day I was afraid." "Afraid of what?" "That you would not wake up, that I would lose you." She paused. "I have never been afraid of losing someone before. It is a strange feeling." "It means you care." "Yes," she looked at him with those large dark eyes. "I do, more than I ever thought possible." Silence stretched between them, not uncomfortable, just quiet. "I heard you abdicated," said finally. "I did. The throne means nothing to me now. My people abandoned me. They abandoned everything I thought was important, but you stayed." She reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his. "You showed me that there is more to life than survival. There is loyalty. There is love. There is standing beside someone even when it is easier to run." "So what now?" "Now I learn." She squeezed his hand gently. "I have requested to stay on Earth, to study your people, to understand how you became what you are, and perhaps to teach my own people what I have learned." "That sounds like a big job." "It is, but I will not be alone." She looked at him, and for the first time he saw something like hope in her eyes. "Will I?" Smiled. It still hurt, but he did not care. "No," he said, "you won't." The door burst open. A small figure came running in, followed by a woman in her 30s who was trying unsuccessfully to catch her. Uncle Star launched herself at the bed, somehow managing not to hit any of the tubes or monitors. She wrapped her tiny arms around his neck. "You're awake. Mom said you were sleeping for a long time." "Be careful," caught up breathless. He's still recovering. But was laughing, holding his niece with his one good arm, tears streaming down his face. He had not seen her in over a year. She had grown so much. Stopped beside the bed, her eyes wet. "You idiot," she said. "You absolute idiot, you almost died." "I know. You scared me to death." "I know. Don't ever do that again." "I can't promise that." She hit him on the shoulder, which hurt, and then hugged him, which hurt more. But he did not complain. Pulled back and noticed for the first time. Her eyes went wide. "Are you the Queen?" she asked. Looked uncertain. "I was a queen. I am not anymore." "You're blue." "Yes." "That's so pretty." Climbed off the bed and walked up to, studying her with the fearless curiosity that only children possessed. "Do you glow in the dark?" Yes, I suppose I do." "Can I touch your arm?" Looked at helplessly. He nodded encouragingly. Slowly extended one of her arms. Reached out and touched it, her small fingers tracing the patterns of light beneath the skin. "Wow," she breathed. You're like a nightlight. Made that sound again, the one that might have been a laugh. I have never been compared to a nightlight before. Uncle Star saved you, right? Mom told me. She said he was very brave. He was, looked at. He is the bravest being I have ever known. Watched his niece talk to the alien queen, his sister standing beside them with tears and smiles mixing on her face. He thought about his grandmother's restaurant, his mother's sacrifice, his father's grave by the sea. He thought about all the things that made humans human, the stubbornness, the love, the refusal to leave anyone behind. Hey, he said. She looked at him. When I'm out of this bed, I'm going to teach you how to make kimchi. She smiled. It was the first real smile he had ever seen on a face. I would like that, she said. Outside the window, stars burned against the black velvet of space. Somewhere out there, the galaxy was learning a new word. Loyalty. They were learning it from the humans.